Memphis Success, episode 29 with Brian Booker of One Step Initiative.
I realize that there's a gap that exists between, especially underserved and impoverished communities and getting access to quality study abroad opportunities. So everything about One Step is really part of my life, and it's an extension of who I am.
Want to be successful in business? Listen to Memphis Success, the voice of Memphis entrepreneurs. Be prepared to be challenged and inspired to dream big and take immediate action now.
This episode is sponsored by Cheers Creative, a local creative agency right here in the Mid-South. And their motto is clear messaging plus great design creates trackable results. Right now, they're offering for free their brand journal. So I just encourage you to visit cheerscreative.com, sign up to receive this free brand journal, and you will be amazed. So guys, let's go ahead and get to the show. Memphis Go-Getters, welcome to Memphis Success, the voice of Memphis entrepreneurs, where your success is Memphis Success. Hello, I'm your host, Darnell Reed, and I interview local entrepreneurs in the Mid-South to share their story, to inspire and challenge you to pursue your dreams. Today, I'm excited to have Mr. Brian Booker of One Step. Now, One Step Initiative aims to bring global education opportunities to the nation's most underserved high school students. Their vision is to be the number one study abroad provider in the inner city high school education, granting students the experience of interacting and learning in an international environment through quality study abroad and service programs, regardless of their socioeconomic status. Their goal is to equip youth with the tools and skills needed to succeed in a global economy. Mr. Booker, how are you doing, man?
I'm good, Darnell. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm on top, man. I appreciate you being on the show. You're doing some amazing things, so I definitely wanted to have you on just to kind of share, what your experience has been like as starting this nonprofit organization, man. I think it's something tremendous that you're doing. So, hey, man, I know you are a Memphian. You told me you were a Melrose Wildcat.
That's right.
All right, home of the Orange Mound.
Yes, indeed.
So let's go ahead and kick off the show, man. What is the first thing that normally comes to your mind when you think about the city of Memphis and entrepreneurship and nonprofit organizations?
Memphis, that's home, man, and I see the first word that comes to mind is opportunity. There's so much here to be had and done that there's so much that we can actually work towards acquiring together in this city, and I see it as an opportunity, man, as far as the level of entrepreneurship that resides in the city of Memphis.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. I think we still got a lot of unhidden jewels out there.
That's right.
They're doing amazing things. We were connected through a mutual friend. I wasn't even aware of your organization. And so, man, you're just an example of what I consider a Memphis success and somebody out there, making an impact in our community.
Right.
So look, man, I know I just gave a brief rundown about your organization. But when you're out there networking and someone asks you, what do you do? How do you normally respond to it?
First, I'll start by, introducing myself. I'm Brian Booker, founder of One Step Initiative. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization that introduces underserved high school students to international education opportunities.
Okay, cool. Well, hey, like I said before, man, it's exciting that you're starting something like this. Man, when I was just thinking about it, man, I was probably 16 when I left Memphis. And the first city I ever went to was Dallas, Texas.
Is that right?
Yeah, and then I was probably
Oh, I'm here.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
okay.
the train. The train. I didn't know if you were picking that up or not. No,
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
edit that
yeah.
out, but I didn't know if you were picking that up or not, so I muted it.
Okay, no problem, no problem. So yeah, I was about 20 years old. Um, Probably the first time I left the country, and actually no, I was like 23 when I left the country on my honeymoon.
All right.
So that was my first time leaving the country, and when I was just reading more about your organization, I just started to think about just how impactful it is for our youth to leave Memphis and just see something totally different. And, even just leaving the city, but just imagining going out to a country and seeing something totally different.
All right.
So yeah, man. So with that being said, we all have a beginning and an origin of how we got started. So can you just kind of give us the backdrop of what inspired you to start One Step?
Well, like you said, I mean, there's a time where you feel like you have to branch out and you're not getting, which I think, enough exposure, which I think is exposure being the key to success. You talked about your now wife, and I almost had a question for you, but you had a reason to come back here, to the city of Memphis and do what you do. Me as well. I had an opportunity to travel abroad as an undergraduate student at the U of M. I didn't get my passport until 25. And so I felt that there was a lot of things that I didn't know about myself. And even more importantly, there was a lot that I didn't know about the world. And so got my start. I went to school in Japan for a year. Turned around and went to business school in Germany and then did part of an MBA program in the UK. But I always had this desire, and I always knew from 2009 that what I was doing was a lot bigger than just myself. Coming from, like you said, Orange Mound, and I realized that a lot of our teens, yeah, and our youth especially, and some of the older folk as well, don't get an opportunity to see outside of their neighborhoods, and you have generations of people that are just stagnant, in one spot. And
Right.
so for me, I realized that coming from my own background, and so I realized that there's a gap that exists between, especially underserved and impoverished communities and getting access to quality study abroad opportunities. So everything about One Step is really it's really part of my life, and it's an extension of who I am as an individual. So just found a way to combine my love for travel and exploration and experiential learning, and make that an organization, something that's going to be transformational for people other than just myself.
Oh yeah, that's cool. That's very cool. So let me go back a little bit. I mean, you said you went out. You first went to
Yeah,
U of M, and
yeah,
then you said you went to Japan.
yeah,
So
man.
what
It's
did you
hard
do?
to keep track of me. It's hard to keep track. I bounce around quite a bit, I tell you.
So what did you do in Japan? What kind of program was that?
I was a student at Toyo University, Central Tokyo, and it's my first time stepping out there on my own.
Hmm.
Ended up enrolling in this program. There were about 120 people from all over the world, and get this, I was the only African American male. I was
Wow.
only, so that was my first introductory my first introductory phase to actually being outside of the norm and
Hmm.
and being put in an uncomfortable circumstance, because then you realize that there's more people out there that are just not like you.
Right.
And
So was it like a program at U of M?
I went. Well, so I initially went through the U of M International Programs Office. So they've been instrumental in actually helping me develop into who I am right now. So as a U of M program, international programs, they're the ones that kicked off this madness.
Okay, cool. So then you said you went to Japan, and then I heard you say you went and got your MBA in Germany.
No, so I did business school. So I did a summer business school program at WFI Ingolstadt in Germany.
Mhm.
And then from there, I started an MBA program in the UK at St. Mary's Catholic University.
Wow, wow, wow. So man, I mean that is amazing. Really, it seemed like you got that bug to be, to study abroad and just visit different countries. I mean, I know there's a lot of people, man, who would be afraid just to even go outside the country and I guess live there for a couple of years or a couple of months,
Right.
in those environments. So I know you probably just, man, took away so much from that experience. So, you said you started One Step. Can you just kind of break down in general, what was the process for you to start your nonprofit organization?
Oh, well, I knew back in 2009, before I even took that first plane ride to Japan, that this is what I wanted to do. So up until last year, when I finally developed as far as the confidence, and that's where it all started, as far as getting the confidence to move this vision forward. Um, I already knew that eventually I wanted to serve someone in the same capacity as what I actually had to figure out on my own.
Right.
So uh, there was a that period of just trying to find my own footing and study abroad. So that's where the traveling came in at, and then trying to make up for lost time, because I eventually got to around 30 countries that I visited. So I was kind of
Oh,
just making
wow.
up for all the time that I didn't have before 25. So I was working. I ended up in Africa, of all the places, and from there, back in 2014, that's when I decided to come back to the States. But I didn't initially come back to to Memphis. So I was in California, developing as far as the business plan, getting my incorporation paperwork taken care of, all of my trademarking. I got that taken care of. Said quite a few prayers.
Right.
Talked to the family about the transition that I was going into, and January 15th, 2015, that's when I became mentally the founder and CEO of One Step Initiative. So it was all preparatory. It was all, a lot of trying to make sure that this is what I wanted to do. And I'm proud to say that we've now completed our first program back in December, and we have a group of 15 kids right now from 11 different schools that are uh, being groomed to join us in December. West Africa,
Oh,
going back to
wow.
West Africa for 2 weeks, culture and history program that we've designed. So the ball is moving, but it definitely was not a piece of cake, and it's always a learning experience. From then to now, I'm always learning
So
from the
so
people
so
that I serve.
so let me ask you this. So with that first group of kids, are they all just Memphis
Yeah,
students?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, definitely all Memphis.
And,
So.
and I guess, how did you even get the word out about your program?
I mean, it started with going home. So initially, I went straight to Melrose. I mean, it
Hmm.
just I knew that no one had ever offered me an opportunity to get a passport or travel abroad. So
Right.
I just went right back to the house. I went right back to the house and actually talked to Mr. Neal. I talked to Mr. Neal about who was the current principal over there, and I said something, I don't know, maybe corny, like, "Hey, how do you feel about um, urban study abroad for your students?" Just something that that I thought was going to get him like intrigued, and of course, he loved the idea. And from there, I just got introduced to a group of students, and we just started trying to prepare them for their first trip abroad. So, I mean, it just expanded from just no students to 10 students, and we have 15 students. So. Students are being groomed, and that's an important aspect of our program. It's the training and development, which we start selecting students at least 6 months out. All right,
Okay.
it's not just about the trip itself. Like the travel is actually about 7% of what we really do at
Mm,
OSI. Because yeah, it's a different world, literally,
right.
when you step on that plane and you end up 7,000 miles away from the house. So we emphasize development and actually being prepared for the culture shock. The
Okay.
initial culture shock, that honeymooning stage. The feelings of homesick,
Hmm.
being homesick, and then also the reverse culture shock as well once they get back from the trip. So all of
Mm.
those key pieces are things that we focus on to make sure that our students, they go and they learn as much as possible and they bring that newfound knowledge back home.
Oh man, that is awesome. I mean, it seems like you got it all the way covered from preparing the students, prior to going on the trip to preparing them when they get back. I mean, honestly, I didn't even think about, talking to them about, once you get back, I guess like what are you gonna do with this experience that you just went through, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
so that's cool. Can you tell me a little bit about that first trip and where did you guys go and what did you do?
So we went to Ghana, and it was completely unexpected, and because initially I introduced the idea of going to Spain to the students, and I thought of it as a less intimidating
Mm-hmm.
country, and because of the negative connotation that Africa, or the negative views that Africa has, but it's really an amazing place, and people would like to generalize Africa as just one big landmass or wasteland, and that's just not it. So going back to that that transition, so we were, it's one of the hardships of entrepreneurship. We expected to come back to Memphis in January and get the students selected and get them funded and get them on the plane, but it just didn't work like that. And so we were looking at getting them on the plane in June, and I just didn't have the support. And so instead of like being discouraged, I ended up, I sat down for a second and I thought about, what was available to me, what will be readily available for my students to go to at the end of the year, because most of them were seniors and it was going to be their last opportunity to go abroad. Because the main thing, the main thing that I tried um, to have them do is put that experience on their college application. I
Right.
think that's very important to put that on the college application because
Yeah.
it sets you apart from so many other candidates.
Yeah. Definitely.
And
Definitely. I
right,
agree with that.
so what I ended up doing, I reached back out, and I had just come from Ghana myself, and so I had a lot of connections within the University of Ghana and East Legon, and so I reached out to them and I said, what kind of program can we establish for a group of students, young students, um, for 2 weeks? History and cultures program. I mean, Ghana is just a beautiful land filled with history and culture, so that's what we did, and eventually. I went to the students and I asked them about if they were interested in going to Ghana, because Spain was completely out of the question at this time, and they loved it. I mean, said, let's go.
Right.
And so, yeah, and so in December we just loaded up. We loaded up and took that first step abroad.
Oh
And
well, look,
yeah.
man, that's awesome, man. I definitely have going to Africa is something on my bucket list that I want to definitely do, and get there. So one of the things that you mentioned, and obviously as a nonprofit, funding obviously has to be a big deal. So I guess I was going to ask you about that. If you can you just kind of talk about, you know, what do you have to do, or what things do you have to do to try to raise money, to fund this travel, for these students?
Can you say that one more time?
I was saying, one big thing obviously for a nonprofit is to do fundraising.
Right.
And so I guess how do you go about doing that for your students to be able to travel?
Well, most of our funding comes from the local business community. So I've had the support of quite a few um, local local businesses that see the value in what we're doing and see they understand what it means to our youth and for our city. So, like Little Caesars, special shout out to Little Caesars for sponsoring a student for us. They were actually one of my first sponsors. The Shelby County Commissioners, some of them have chipped in to provide funding for our students. Also, Classic American Hardwoods and Bill Courtney, um, big champions of ours, and definitely their support has been key in moving us forward. So also within our program, we like to get the students out in the crowd and around the people get them access to different activities. So we have the Memphis Symphony Orchestra. There's opera that we've gone to.
Okay.
We have an MVP program coming up through the River Kings Hockey. That's the fundraising initiative that we're using in actually next month in October. So feel free, if your listeners are out there. October 21st. That is the River Kings hockey game. So Germantown International Festival. The kids go there and they meet the people and they share their enthusiasm about going to Ghana. And so there's plenty of opportunities for the kids to raise money. And their buy-in to this is just about 15 to 18%. So they have the smallest share of responsibility as it pertains to our programs. Everything else is pretty much subsidized through the contributions of the local philanthropic community.
Okay, awesome. So let me ask you this, just for any of my Memphis go-getters that are listening, I guess, Brian, what would you suggest is the best way if they wanted to donate and fund a student? What's the best way that they can go about doing that?
Definitely come online. The website is onestepinc.org. The donate now button is there and it's bright and green. and also, we're having a t-shirt booster right now. We just redesigned a logo. And it's awesome, if I must say so.
I will say, man, I do like the logo, man.
It's
I really
a great
do.
logo. Yeah, it's definitely a shift from the original. But definitely, we're having a t-shirt booster right now. You can go online at booster.com / One Step Initiative, and it'll take you right there. You can buy a t-shirt, and that goes towards creating scholarships for these students who are definitely in need. So many opportunities to be around the students that you're making an impact on, and actually stay up to date on Facebook as well, facebook.com / One Step Initiative, because we put up as far as what events and activities that the students are having leading up to their departure. We put that online. And so feel free to come out to any one of those events and come out and meet one of these adventurous young teens.
Well, awesome. That's definitely great. Memphis go-getters, if you visit memphissuccess.com, look for One Step Inc., and I will have a link in the show notes for all the information that he shared, his website, and links to the donate page. So we can definitely help send a child out and be able to study abroad. So look, man, let's just shift gears for a minute and just talking about, starting your nonprofit. I know you've probably been faced with some challenges.
Right.
And if you can you just tell us, for those who may be interested in starting a nonprofit, what challenge or disappointment did you face in the beginning, and how were you able to overcome and bounce back from it?
Well, that's a good one. Let's see. Well, just as a nonprofit leader or just as an entrepreneur, period, I don't think that there is ever an easy time. Like
Right.
there are these times that you definitely just don't know if you made the right decision. I think that my biggest obstacle happened in December of last year. So mind you, we started off with 10 students and got that down to 6 that were going overseas. And then 10 days before departure, I experienced the greatest lesson of my life, and one of the most disheartening lessons, as three of my students from my own high school decided that they weren't going to go. Now, these kids had plane tickets in their names, and those tickets were $2,000. And the $2,000, they had shots, they had their passports, visas, all taken care of. And I learned then that poverty, poverty is not the underlining issue. It's the poverty. It's the poverty mindset.
Mm.
And for me, I almost gave up. It was by the grace of God and by the grace of a local foundation leader that we sat down and I just explained everything to her. And she told me one of the most valuable lessons that I still keep with me every day today, which is you have to meet them where they are. You know,
Mm.
meaning that you don't approach a student or a person in general as if you already have the answers. Looking at it from your own paradigm, you have to be able to relate to what they give you. And so, I had faced issues from those students as it pertained to, their parents, not coming to events or not being supportive. And I always, for the entire year of 2015, I always wondered why. Why this? Why that? They won't do this. They won't do that. Eventually, I just stopped asking myself why and started trying to figure out how. Right
Mm.
now, how can I make this work? All right, and how can I get you more engaged? And that loss for me, I think it was is one of those hard knock life lessons, and I'll never forget that because
Hmm.
I worked, from sun up to sundown, just trying to make that happen.
Right.
And I got different reasons for why the students felt the need to do that, and I think a lot of it has to do what I gathered with um, I guess I'll say dreaming. All right,
Hmm.
and I say dreaming as it pertains to them not thinking that it was actually going to come to fruition.
Right.
And because once again, these are students who have never been outside of the neighborhood sometimes or outside
Right.
because once I've gotten these students to Germantown, that was a big deal for them. And it's a different world already.
Right.
So I took that opportunity or I took that little bit of downfall just to build me up and now we actually we because of that we implemented a monthly payment for the students.
Hmm.
So at first we didn't. At first
Right.
we didn't have a monthly installment for the trip itself. I was thinking that I could come in and just do it out of the kindness of the people and generosity of our donors, but you can't do that because it definitely it diminishes some of the value of the program. And I think working for your own opportunity creates an appreciation.
Right. You got
You know,
buy-in. You got more
exactly.
skin in
That's
the
your
game.
buy-in, right? Right. So now you're a bit less tempted to just say or to walk away from it and just say,
Mm.
this is not what I'm going to do because of
Right.
any reason, because you have your money in it. It's not someone else's.
Right.
So that was my biggest thing. I don't know if I answered your question, but I
No,
gave you
no,
one of
man.
my
I mean,
stories.
I mean, no, that's an amazing story. And I guess for me, one of the takeaways from it, what you said was you have to meet them where they are at and not try to come in like you get all the answers and you're going to solve the world for them. And so, and then also the second part to that is making sure that they have, buy-in and
Right,
commitment, in it. And it seems like, you learned from that experience and now you've adjusted your program to make sure that they do have more buy-in
right,
into it. So, man, no, I definitely appreciate that story. I mean, I know a lot of people have definitely had challenges and high expectations and people haven't met them and then you just definitely learn from it. So
right.
once again, man, thanks for sharing that. Now, I call this our big shift moment in our business and in our opportunities. So if you can just take us to the moment in time when you had experienced or learned something new that you feel like has just really helped shift your nonprofit just to another level.
Hmm. It's another good question. Uh, Really, just going back to the entire first year's program. I think on a nonprofit level, I tend to approach my program a bit differently. Because it's about service, it's about the community. So I think that big shift moment for me, and also where we are now as far as dealing with an even larger group of students. is definitely keeping me on my toes, and is keeping me alert to what's really needed. All right, what do my parents need? What does the community need to see in order to make this a world changing organization? Transitional wise, for me, I just completed one of the local accelerator programs, which has actually helped me to provide a whole lot of grounding and foundation to the organization, even as far as the business side. And even as a nonprofit, you still generate revenue, so you have to approach it as a living, breathing business.
Right.
And for me, just having that opportunity to go through a program that forced me to think about how you're going to sustain yourself. That has been one of the key factors in getting me to think about the broader picture, which we could truly be a civic enterprise. For me, that's the main goal: is to become a civic enterprise and transform the lives of thousands and potentially hundreds of thousands of people moving forward. Because this is a lot bigger than just Memphis, Tennessee. So
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, and I think you kind of alluded to this, and I saw this on your website, but you were talking about being involved in an incubator, and I see on your website, that you're saying you're partnered with Startco, and I'm assuming that's the incubator that you were referencing.
that's correct.
So do you mind for our Memphis Go Getters that are listening who may not be as familiar with Starco and what they do and I guess how they helped you? Can you just kind of explain that a little more?
Well, for me personally, it just goes back to foundation building. I mean, in my particular accelerator over this summer, it was 18 different teams from all over the world. So we had people from Iran, Slovenia, Israel. So people came from all over the world, literally, to be a part of this program. That's because it's nationally recognized, and they definitely take the time to invest in every upcoming company. And so for our organization, I was one of two nonprofits out of all 18 teams, and just had an opportunity to be around people who were just focused on generating revenue. So it really helps you to get an understanding of what your vision is, what and how you start creating a map for that long range goal. And that for me was most it was the most imperative at this point in time, because last year was just about getting it done. For our second year, it's about making it better and making it sustainable and being able to model it out in different cities all across the U.S. So I definitely, as kudos to Starco for taking the time to help groom me for the road ahead.
Awesome, awesome. So Brian, we're going to shift right now, and I call this our lightning round of questions. And so, I mean, you can answer this as short or as lengthy as you would like. Okay.
All right.
So, was there anything holding you back initially from becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah, me. Confidence. Confidence held me back for the longest.
All right, cool. And so I guess what helped you get over that?
Oh, eventually you get tired of doing something that is not fulfilling you. And I speak a lot about purpose and passion right now, because this is something that I think I was purposed to bring to the world, and just understanding that, and I just stopped fighting it. I was working in multi-billion-dollar bank. I was working for the ambassador of the African Union diaspora. I mean, and just none of that stuff was completing me. And so once around the time I got that big old 3-0, it was just like, all right, put up or shut up. And I just wanted to give this a shot before, I did anything else, and stop wasting my time on doing something that I know I wasn't meant for.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. So what is the best advice you have ever received?
Good question. Best advice I ever received, I think, came from a fraternity brother in Ghana. And he asked me, he said, what would you do for free? And I didn't understand that question before, but So what would you do for free? Some people would be in education, some people would be in healthcare. But so when you find the answer to that question, then you find out what the purpose of your life is. And it just so happens that I established a nonprofit, and for quite a while, I do it. I do it just because I understood the dynamic behind it, and I did it for free.
Awesome. So, man, you seem like you're very positive, motivated guy. So, what do you read, watch, or listen to that keeps you inspired and motivated?
Oh, I listen to the greats, the Richard Bransons, the Oprah Winfreys, Tesla, Elon Musk. I listen to those people, and what I read, Think and Grow Rich, that Napoleon Hill, it's dynamite. Rich
Right.
Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, Stephen Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I mean, I read these things because it keeps me, in that positive light. It keeps me wanting to understand more about how they got there. I think that if you want to learn how to be successful, why not listen to successful people tell you how they got to where they were? Another
Right.
book, that dynamite book that I'm reading right now is Bold, Peter Diamandis, and that is one of the most exceptional forward thinking books that I've ever read, because it teaches you how to think about exponential growth and change.
And can you just repeat that title of that book again?
It's called Bold,
Okay.
Bold.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. That's from Peter.
Diamandis.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. So Memphis Go Getters, once again, if you visit memphissuccess.com, look for One Step Inc. And I will have in the show notes a list of several of the books that he has mentioned. This one particular book, man, I haven't read that yet, but it definitely sounds amazing.
You have
So,
to get it. You have to get it.
all right, cool. So let me ask you this, man. Do you have a favorite success quote, or some type of quote that you may live by or just think about?
Yeah, most definitely. And it goes, entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so that you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't. I think that for me, it speaks volumes. I've carried it with me for quite a while. So, because entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart,
Right.
and just mentally, you have to be prepared to battle the ups and downs, and for the longest there'll be more downs than ups. And
Hmm.
so I live through that day in and day out. So that quote for me, and I think I have to say it again just to get myself by. So entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so that you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't.
Right.
And it just feels good. It just
Oh
feels
man,
good coming
I,
out.
I I I love that. I love that. Definitely, I love that. So let me ask you this: if you could start over again, okay? And I always say this is one of my tougher questions, or at least I claim it to be tough. But if you were to start all over again, Brian, and if you had $100 to spend to be a successful entrepreneur, and this $100 really represents time, okay? So how would you invest this money? And there's four areas where you can invest this money in. So the first area is leadership. The second area is hustle. The third area is education. And the fourth is networking. How would you invest that money?
Mm. That is a pretty tough question, Darnell. I'm almost asking who came up with this. Man, $100 to do all of that. Let's see.
And it's
I,
really just about advising, my Memphis Go Getters who are listening. How would you allocate your time,
yeah.
into these areas?
In retrospect, I think an area that could tackle all of that would be to join the Greater Memphis Chamber. To be honest, because that's where I initially got my start at, but I wasn't a part of the chamber then. I was just going there to get answers. All right, that was my start. But I think being a part of the chamber would put you in the area to tackle all of those that you just mentioned, both all of the leadership, the hustle, the was it education and networking.
Right.
I think that speaks for all of those areas, and that's where my $100 would have gone towards, and also I probably would have gotten the book Bold a lot sooner
Okay.
as well. So I probably would have picked up a book and joined the chamber. Easy answer.
So, man, it definitely sounds like you about to catch a plane.
It seems like it. Seems like it. It's not far fetched.
You about to go study abroad again. You about to travel.
Yeah, I'm through studying abroad. I'm about to just go. I'm about to just go this time.
Well, cool. Well, hey, man, my last question for you is this: what does Memphis success mean to you?
Well, I hate to be cliche, but it's all about the grit and grind, and I think I've been speaking about it the entire interview. And Memphis success means weathering those storms and just knowing that the outcome has to be favorable at some point in time. So for me, that success comes in just knowing that I'm making a difference. When I can approach a student who's never seen the Mississippi River, and he actually is willing to take this opportunity and embrace it, and not only that, share that with his peers, then I consider that a pretty successful investment of my own time, because I think for me it's most important to come back as you did, coming from Dallas and your trip abroad to serve and better groom the next generation of leaders in this city. So Memphis success means giving back.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And hey, Brian, is there any last words of advice you can share with the Memphis Go-Getters? And then also, how can they learn more about One Step and what's going on there?
Last word of advice, simple: keep grinding. Keep grinding. There's a lot of millennial entrepreneurial spirit here in the city, and it's not going to come easily. So I say keep grinding. You can learn more about the organization at onestepinc.org. We also have a Twitter. We have the Facebook page. That's where we add the most information on there. We also have Instagram. So keep an eye out. There's plenty of articles out there. We just had a daily news article come out not too long ago, and so just come out and to support the students' first step abroad. I think it's imperative for them to know that they have people that care about their well-being.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you, Mr. Brian Booker of One Step Initiative. Hey, Memphis Go-Getters, this was an amazing interview, man. I'm so glad that I had him on the show, really just explaining just the background behind One Step and the initiatives and the things that they got going on. Guys, we need to fully support organizations like this that are making a difference in our community. So once again, visit Memphis Success. Look for One Step Inc. show notes, and we will have a link to his Facebook page, to his website page. Also, make sure that you donate to this organization. It's just tremendous benefit and value when we send our youth outside of Memphis and they can experience something else, and that can just expand their horizon and their mindset. Once again, guys, visit Memphis Success, become a Memphis Go-Getter, stay up to date with all the latest interviews and information that we share. Memphis Go-Getters, you know what to do. Dream big, take action, and make money.
Thank you for listening to Memphis Success, the voice of Memphis entrepreneurs. Sign up now at memphissuccess.com to become a Memphis go-getter and receive all the latest information and free gifts. Because your success is Memphis Success.